Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Horrifically Horrifying, presented by the Hollywood Critics Association. My name is Heather Wixson, and I am pleased this week to be joined by James Oster from JoBlo. Hello, James.
Hey
Jimmy,
there.
James. I made you sound really fancy. I know. You're
know.
Jimmy.
Yeah,
but I made you sound fancy.
Here's the thing. I guess depending on who you are, some people call me James still. I'm not serious enough for a James. I just don't think I'm serious enough for James.
I think
Jimmy.
you're serious enough. I mean,
do you?
I think you could. I think it can go both ways, I guess.
Fair enough.
That's the way to say it. But I think that would, I think you're serious enough.
Okay, I'll go for it. I don't care. I mean, the only thing I don't like to be called is Jim, because to me, Jim is my dad, and that's who I don't. He's special. I don't want to be my dad. I want him to be my dad. So
yeah,
that's weird. I'm getting weird on here. This is scary. Oh my god.
Well, I think we're okay. But yeah, so I'm really glad to have you back. It's been a couple months since you were on the show. For those of you who watch regularly, you'll notice my co-host Kevin Taft is not here this week. We decided to swap out since last week I had an emergency, so I'm giving him the week off this week. Although I guess he got a little wine happy on last week's episode.
Oh, did he? Yeah, I was going to join him, but it didn't work out. I actually had a screening of a movie we're going to be talking about today.
All right. Yeah, I'm a square, so I'm never wine happy before episodes. So I don't know. I have to learn how to like wine, I think, is my problem. And then
I hate wine. Hate wine. I'm not an alcohol drinker in general.
I'm not really either. Sometimes, like if I'm at a concert, maybe
sure,
loosen up a little bit. But like everyday life, like I used to be. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. I get tired of hangovers, I guess.
It's weird. I know this is so off topic, but I've never had a hangover, and I've gotten massively drunk every year. I covered Comic-Con. One time my editor-in-chief actually had to make sure I got to bed, safely because I was so drunk.
Oh,
no
we
hangover.
all have those Comic-Con stories.
Oh my god, we could do a whole show on that. That's horrific.
I broke my this is so not on topic of anything, but I broke my 9-year hiatus of throwing up from drinking at Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, high five.
Yes. In front of a hotel too.
Oh, fun times.
Yeah, and my first Comic-Con also. So it was like, I was the Comic-Con cliche that year. It was not good.
Not good at all.
No, it was not. I missed, I think that was the year Jonah Hex was there too.
Oh, yeah.
I missed some red carpet for it, but I guess in hindsight, it really didn't matter.
No, it really didn't. That movie
or maybe
did not.
If I had been there to support the red carpet, the movie would have done better. But I don't know that that's really the case.
I don't think so.
So, yeah. But anyway, we are here to talk about all kinds of horror, not our drinking problems. Or getting drunk at Comic-Con. We'll say that for the Comic-Con week, which is like technically would be in a few weeks. I guess they're sort of doing Comic-Con at home, but then they're also doing Comic-Con in person in November around Thanksgiving, which is really dumb.
The dumbest idea ever. I don't know why that they would do that.
Because what all of us want to do is work a convention Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah.
Not hip on that idea at all.
No, me neither. So I like to just make my turkey and enjoy my Christmasing and all that stuff because Christmas for me starts Thanksgiving night. So
okay,
I'm a nerd. Yeah, we usually Thanksgiving. Well, that week I always put up our decorations. It takes
we
me
do
like
too. Yeah, we do. I usually I put some up depending on my mood. Like sometimes I just keep the Halloween decorations and like add Santa hats to them. That's really,
we do that to a degree also.
Okay, there you go.
Yes, but I'm an old lady who collects like Dickens Village pieces and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So I have to like take all of the stuff. We have like an entertainment center. I have to take all of that stuff out from Halloween and then prep it for Christmas for the Dickens Village because I love Dickens, which is appropriate that I am wearing my Scrooge shirt tonight.
I like it.
From Fright Rags. Actually, this isn't even mine. This is my fella's.
Okay.
His was comfy. But yeah, which brings us to probably one of our bigger topics for tonight, which would be the passing of Richard Donner this week. We just got word today that at 91, Richard Donner is no longer with us. And what an immeasurable talent.
The memories that man, that filmmaker, that amazing talent brought to all of us. I don't think there's a generation that wasn't affected by him since he started. Even like to a lot of directors today, they cut their teeth on doing television. He did the same thing, and he knew his craft. And wow, look, he's 91. Of course, that we're seeing a lot more of that. We're losing a lot of people it's really shocking. I mean, obviously, it's a lot more shocking when you see someone a little younger, like Anton Yelchin or something like that. But it's still devastating, and and then you find yourself getting nostalgic for the movies, especially movies like Lady Hawk. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. We are big Richard Donner fans in this house. Like Scrooged is very much a staple, I think, for us kind of year round. Like
good word for that though. Staple. It is a good. Have you tried Staples?
Yeah. But yeah, that one is always been really special to me. And I'm a big fan of even the effects work of that movie. One of my favorite stories is I had the opportunity to interview Tom Berman and his wife, Barry Berman, for the book stuff that I've been doing for the last few years. And they both worked on Goonies and Scrooged with Richard Donner. They had to come in last minute on Scrooged, and last minute on Goonies, because the artist that they had hired to do Sloth was not working out, and they had 2 weeks to get the character to work. So they had to turn it around and go quickly. And because of what they were able to do, Richard Donner reached out to them to work on Scrooged. And so one of my favorite things is that he was really trying to push of going away from, there's the moment with Ghost of Christmas Future where he opens the robe and there's the little ghosts hanging out in the rib cage and stuff. And at one point, Richard Donner actually wanted to lose that because he didn't think it was necessary, because it really didn't quite fit the rest of the character with the TV or the skull and the TV, and all that kind of stuff. And Tom Berman was like, I just spent 2 weeks working on this. You could at least take a look at it. And Richard was like, I don't have time, which I get it. Directors are busy and stuff.
For sure.
And so finally it was towards the end of one of the days of shooting on set, and Tom had gotten set up right around some table with a couple of his effects guys. And he goes to Richard and he's like, hey, come here. I wanted to show you something really quick. And so Richard Donner goes over there and the puppets pop out. They do their little thing or whatever. And Richard just looks at him. And this is a few weeks after him telling him, we don't need them. And he looks at him and he's like, all right, we'll keep the puppets. He was like, you got your way. And he's like, they're great. And so thankfully Tom Berman pushed for those, or we wouldn't have our little fun chest of souls, if you will.
Oh God, what a delightful movie. I mean, there's nothing that doesn't work in that movie.
And I still cry every single time at the end. Mm-hmm. I'm a really big softie, but when he makes that speech about if you want it and if you want that Christmas magic, and I guess I'm still an optimist enough to be like, yeah, you want it, you can go out there and you can make it happen. And I'm just, I'm still a sucker for that.
Yeah, I think it's a very old-fashioned idea that I don't think we see it. We're a very jaded and cynical society now. I mean, just look at social media. But yeah, I think that is it's nice to see those movies. It's nice to see that kind of energy. And Scrooged is what a balance of kind of weird frights and funny and charming and heartbreaking, and Carol Kane is amazing in that movie. I love everything about it. It's it's weird though. I feel bad. I haven't watched it in ages. It's been years. Yeah. Maybe this Christmas is the year to bring it back. I usually just watch Anna and the Apocalypse and Black Christmas. That's really all I watch. And Die Hard. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we start Thanksgiving off with Die Hard and Die Hard 2. Usually is how we start off our Christmas season. But yeah, I watch a lot of like the old classics. Like I'm totally addicted to White Christmas.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I
I
love
mean
the old classics.
like
Yeah,
there's parts of that movie that haven't aged, but that's
for
literally
sure.
every movie. I think it's in some regard. But yeah, for me, Richard Donner was really an interesting director because he worked in every genre,
Everyone,
and
everyone.
he excelled at all of them. And what's even
Hmm.
great is you mentioned his TV work, which of course most fans are well aware of the fact that he basically was one of the driving forces behind Tales from the Crypt
Hmm.
for so many years, and ultimately ended up producing the 3 different movies that came out as well.
Hmm.
But he also like cut his teeth on Twilight Zone.
Hmm.
I remember the only reason I knew this was because of Stand By Me, but apparently he worked on like Have Gun Will Travel. And that was like that was a show that I didn't even know was a show until they sang the theme song in Stand By Me.
Yes.
So, and then I was like doing research on it and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I didn't realize he'd worked on that too. Um, and the fact that like he was able to essentially create a genre with Superman
Hmm.
because comic book movies weren't really a thing at that point.
No,
And then,
no.
was one of the first real quote unquote prestige horror movies when you think about it. Like I know Rosemary's
Yeah.
Baby was all artsy and stuff, and Psycho to a degree, but he brings in like Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird to play a character that has to kill a child on screen. Like the balls it takes
Yeah.
to do something like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to get us to want him to do it.
That The Omen still haunts me. It haunted me as a kid when I saw it when I was way too young, and I'll never forget those little moments, especially the "This is for you, Damien." I'm just like,
It's all for you. Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. I know. Like years later, I've heard a few people say, "Oh, The Omen's not so good," and I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. You're always open to your opinion, as we've talked about before." But something to me that movie is really special. It's got a couple, the one effect that's not so great, but other than that, I think it's a near perfect film, and I think it holds up beautifully. It didn't need the remake, but hey. That's that can be pretty much everything, but I really do, and I Lethal Weapon, all of these, I do think it's fascinating to see a guy like him. I think Alan Parker is another one that somehow managed to do everything really well, and it's yeah, man, R.I.P. Mr. Donner.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting because I saw somebody today because I mentioned Richard Donner online, and somebody said something about like, well, it's unfortunate that he associated with or promoted Mel Gibson. And I was like, okay, first of all, the last time that Richard Donner worked with Mel Gibson was in 1998 for Lethal Weapon 4.
Yeah.
All the stuff with Mel Gibson came out in like the early 2000s.
Yep.
And how does somebody's relationship in a professional capacity years prior make them responsible for some idiot's actions years later?
Yeah, it's funny because like Mel Gibson is one of those guys. Look, I grew up on Mel Gibson's work, and the Road Warrior, Mad Max, even Beyond Thunderdome, I love them all.
Oh, we saw Beyond Thunderdome
movies
in theaters twice. My
it's
mom
a great movie.
loves Tina Turner.
Oh, well, who doesn't? Come on.
I know, but I remember because that song, the "We Don't Need Another Hero," was so huge. I mean, like she was listening to the cassette on the way to the theater. I can remember it because she borrowed her boyfriend's car, and he had this red velour interior, and I was laying in the back seat. And it was raining. I can remember everything about the second time we went and saw it. Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, she loved Tina Turner. So
yeah.
It's tough when people you like or you grew up with or movies you enjoy turn out to be total assholes. Like, what do you do? You know?
Hey, have you interviewed Mel before?
No, never.
I interviewed him once, and it was interesting because I don't, it's weird because he was nice. It was a pleasant interview. He was just very serious and it was for Hacksaw Ridge, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't. maybe he's trying to clean himself up. Maybe I know he's trying to get back in the business, and he is working a little bit more. So I don't know. But it's never gonna. He's not one that has. It's tricky. It is really tricky. It's always such a fine line between. I talked to someone recently that, and I don't want to get too much into this, but I've talked to someone who mentioned a certain director. I won't see his movies. Won't see his movies, and it bothers me that he's still working, but I don't think he is now. I don't think he will be, and I don't even want to mention his name. I don't want to give him the time of day. But if you know me, you'll know him. You'll know me well. You'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But I'm never dismissive of, like, say, a film fan going, you know what, I love Kevin Spacey's movies, I'm going to watch them all. I don't care. I don't, Polanski, another one. It's very tricky because we could actually go into a lot of people's. We could talk about what, happened to Shelley Duvall in The Shining and how she was treated. Yeah. It's very tricky, and I try not to judge other people's lines too much. We all draw a line in the sand on what we where it stops, where we can still be a fan, where we can't. And I don't know, it's a tricky, and I hate the fact that we get so judgmental of everyone for liking somebody or liking their early work, and I think you have to be very careful about that.
Yeah, I kind of drew a line in the sand with Polanski just because I was like, I like Rosemary's Baby, but not enough to feel guilty every time I watch it.
For sure, yeah.
So I was like, all right, I think I'm out. So I've never seen Repulsion. Which I know I'm missing out on a really great film, but there's a lot of really great films out there, so it's okay. I'll let it be somebody else's favorite. It's fine.
It's fine.
But
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I think for me, like, going after somebody like Richard Donner for something that Mel Gibson said is like,
that's ridiculous.
Well, it blows my mind because Richard Donner was always very socially he was sort of like a filmmaker activist in very very sort of subtle ways through a lot of his movies, because he's basically the reason I know what apartheid was. Because as a kid growing up, in a trailer park, like outside of O'Hare, like, I didn't know what apartheid was. Like, they didn't talk about that on our news and things like that. I didn't know what that was. Like, I knew the name Nelson Mandela, but I didn't know about what, and like, to me, like, even watching like Lethal Weapon 2, and you're like, well, why couldn't somebody who's black go to South Africa? It's in Africa. Like, that's crazy to me. And then, like, and I remember, like, going and looking things up. And it's interesting because I'm back in school now. And a couple terms ago, I actually took a history class. And one of the things was, like, we could pick topics to do a project on. And I picked apartheid. And one of the things is, like, we had to tell our teacher, like, well, how did you ever hear about this? And I was like, well, actually, originally because of watching the Lethal Weapon movies. Because in the first one, even though it's not a plot point, but there's Free South Africa bumper stickers and things like that all around the Murtaugh house. Yeah. And, I mean, it's a subtle thing to do, but he's doing it in a major studio's summer action blockbuster. And then he makes it a plot point in Lethal Weapon 2. And I think even in Assassins, which is with Antonio Banderas and Sylvester Stallone, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's kind of anti-NRA in that movie also.
He might probably. He was very good at subtle political, statements. Yeah.
But even if you look at, like, the Lethal Weapon movies too, which is interesting, like, as much as, like, cops use guns and guns do things to happen in those movies, so many of the key moments don't really involve guns very often.
None. Yeah, very few.
Like that big, like, beatdown with Gary Busey in the first one.
Oh, what a great scene! Oh my God,
it's so good. And they're just men. And they're gonna fight in the grass, and they're just gonna be men about it. Or even like part 4 with, like, Jet Li.
Yeah.
Like with Jet Li basically kicking their asses, which still is a delightful scene.
Probably I'm not a big fan of the 4th film, so it's that's the one scene I'm like, okay, that was fun. I pretty much dropped off after part 2. I didn't really like part 3. I didn't really like part 4, but I love the first 2.
Yeah, 3 is fine if you're in it for Pesci, which your mileage may vary, as the kids say.
For sure.
But yeah, it's so crazy to me that, throughout his career, it was like he kind of set this bar with, like, comic book movies and horror movies and kids movies. and action movies, and
And I still say Superman, the first two of the best superhero films ever made. They're just beautiful.
I know that I saw 2 in theaters because I was really, really little. I think I was only like 2 or 3. Because my mom would just bring me to stuff. I was a good kid who just kind of sat there. So, and I can remember, I think I saw 2 before I ever saw 1.
Oh, wow.
But it's almost like Santa Claus. Like every kid knows who Superman is, kind of.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Because I think even at that point, like she was watching the Incredible Hulk TV series, which used to scare me. So I kind of knew of like what these characters were and stuff to a degree. And, it's just like you look at what he was able to do and the amount of lives that he was like able to touch. Like it's pretty amazing. And the stuff that he was producing too, he was going out there and just making opportunities for so many other people.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. And I think even I was 16 Blocks like his last like
I believe so.
Official movie?
I believe that was his last film, yeah.
And that really wasn't that bad either.
It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was fine.
I don't remember disliking that very much.
Yeah.
So I remember just being like, oh, okay. I think I threw it on, it was like Netflix or something a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably.
And I think I just had it on late one night. So anyway, it was a real big bummer.
It is. I do have a confession, though. It's funny because, you were talking earlier before we came on. I have never seen the Goonies.
See, here's the thing about Goonies is I feel like if you didn't grow up with it, I don't know that people who haven't seen it as part of their childhood will love it as much.
That's what... Well, okay, so here's the thing. And Chad Lindbergh, we need to watch the Goonies. So my buddy Chad, as you know from, of course, Jesse from Fast and Furious, and just the coolest fucking guy ever, we were supposed to watch the Goonies together because he was so shocked that I did not see the Goonies. So we were going to have a movie date. It still hasn't happened. Even one of a guy who's become a friend of mine who listened to me, he actually sent me a copy of the Goonies. Kevin Plant sent me a copy of the Goonies to watch. I'm waiting to watch it with Chad. Goonies, we got to watch. That's it. That's my public service announcement.
Yeah, it was one of those like today where I just saw a bunch of people sort of dunking on the Goonies, which it happens all the time and it's fine. Like I get it. Like for me, like I loved it when I was a kid. I still remember my mom and I went and saw it and we had such a good time that we basically just stayed in the theater and waited for it to start again.
Oh, I did. I remember those days. Yeah.
I know, right?
You could totally do that back then.
Yeah, and because it wasn't like they gave you like a specific ticket. Like this is like old school, like where they would just give you like the ticket that said like admission on it. They'd rip it in half, like something you get at a carnival. And so we just kind of sat in there and watched it all over again, like right after. Like
wow.
As soon as like the preview started, like my mom walked out, got new popcorn and soda, and we just stayed and watched it all over again.
Wow. I do want to watch it. I'm curious, and because I love that song.
Yeah.
Good enough for you.
Cyndi Lauper was like everywhere then because it was like she's popping up in movies, she was popping up in WWF. I was having a good time with Cyndi Lauper during that time. So yeah, but I get it. I mean, I get if people like didn't grow up with it and they
I have to share something with you. I'm listening to you, but I have to share something to you. So keep talking because I got to show you something.
Well, now I'm curious as to what you're doing.
I discovered. So I got my new record player. A Victrola, and I put on this.
Oh, fantastic!
This is from when it came out. It's an old copy, original pressing, and it sounds freaking gorgeous. Oh my god!
Oh, that's awesome! I actually think I had that record.
I think everybody had that record. I think a lot of people still have that record. I think it's a really fantastic record, but the Goonies song not on it. That's on the later albums.
It was no, actually I don't even think it went on any of her albums. I think it was just released as a single.
Part of the sound. I think it ultimately did end up on one of hers, but I don't remember
probably like
which
Greatest
one.
Hits.
Yeah, I feel like it may have been on another one. I'm going to have to look that up because I think it was on her third album with I Drove All Night, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I could be wrong. We'll get back to that. I'm gonna let you know.
All right. So anyway, we'll miss you, Mr. Donner. Thank you for all the memories over the years. I probably will be watching a lot of Lethal Weapon this week. We'll see. I like Lethal Weapon, frankly, because part of it was shot right by my house. Like, you literally could see my bedroom window in it.
Wait, which scene?
The Christmas tree lot scene.
Oh.
The lot that they shot at is at the corner. I won't say the intersection because I don't want people creeping up in my house. But it's like it's right now. It's like a car lot, and you can see there's like a business that's like an auto detailing business. It still exists on our street, and it's in the movie in like '87. So they shot in '86. But when you do the reverses, you can actually see not only our whole building, but like because our bedroom window is like the center of the building. And I was like, wow, that's so weird. It was like, you know, all these years before we moved here. So
if we ever do like a where it was made type of episode, we could just go to your house.
Yeah, totally.
For Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So maybe that's probably one of the reasons I don't want to move up. Be like, but I did Lethal Weapon. But I remember the first time we realized that because we saw like the sign for the freeway, and then I saw the car shop, and I was like, and then there's a Winchell's Donuts there, but now that's a Pizza Hut. And I was like, wow, that is so weird. I was like, this looks like exactly like our neighborhood. And then it does the reverse shot. And I was like, that's our building, which by the way, just finally changed colors. It had been the same poopy colored brown for like 4 decades. And they finally painted it like in the last 2 months.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So
good.
it's fine. We finally got upgraded, you know, some 40 some odd years later. So
nice.
Yeah. You know, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
But yeah, so we were going to talk about some new movies.
Yes, we are. It's not all about the old today. We got some new stuff.
We got some new stuff. There's so much new stuff coming and going these days.
Ridiculous. So good.
Yeah. So one of them is we should just jump into some Fear Street.
Hell, I've been wanting to talk about this movie for a long time because I did the junket for this film, and I loved this movie. I have no connection to R.L. Stine. I never read his. Kind of was a little after my time. I was already fully entrenched with every horror movie, gorier the better. I wasn't going to watch a kid's horror film. So I was like, this is going to be another cheesy, lame, quote-unquote slasher film. Oh my God. I loved this movie. I loved everything about it. I loved the vibe. I loved the cast. I loved the script. I loved the director. Fear Street 1994 got so much right. I know people are kind of nitpicking about, well, this song didn't come out until 19... Really? Come on, stop.
Well, that's the thing also, too, like, why can't a filmmaker use songs from any time? Like, I get it if they're listening to it actively in the scene where it's on their headphones. Okay, that makes sense to me. But in those cases, most of those were pretty timed out. Mm-hmm. For me, like, because of Fear Street in the 90s nostalgia, I ended up jumping into the Cruel Summer TV series, which is sort of a teen thriller kind of whodunity kind of situation. But there's like a scene when taking place in 1993, and they use Wonderwall, and I'm like, well, that didn't ruin anything for me there.
No. I think ultimately, if you're bothered by that, it's just not working for you.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I'm not somebody who won't say, like, if you point out anachronisms in a movie, like, that you need to always relax. And that's fine. It's fair. Yeah. There's certain things I've seen where I'm like, oh, that's not right.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, that's actually fun. It's like I kind of like anachronisms in movies because it gives me something to fixate on because my brain does that a lot. But for me, like, oh my God, Firestarter didn't come out till 1996. Who cares? It's an awesome moment in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're listening to it on the radio. It's just playing over the rest of the scene. Like, these people would be just a nightmare to watch, like Moulin Rouge or A Knight's Tale with.
Oh my goodness! Or the Sofia Coppola,
Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette, yeah. Oh my, that drives them crazy.
Like, it's just
all those songs didn't come out.
Yeah, I'm like, guess what, guys? Kurt Cobain wasn't writing Smells Like Teen Spirit in 18th century France.
No,
like, but
wasn't.
it still works in the moment, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like just suspend a little disbelief. Like, if you have other nitpicks at the movie, I get it. That's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
But like to say a movie is shitty because they picked the wrong songs. Like, no, they picked the right songs for the moment. I do think the music at the beginning is a little too much. It comes a little hot and heavy there.
Oh, God, it opens with Closer. I mean, that's
but then they only give you 15 seconds of it, where I'm like, okay, cool, we're doing Nine Inch Nails, and then it's gone, and you're like, wait, where did it just go? And then it's like, and then it goes like, there's like, it's like Fast and Furious for when they get to the high school, and it was like, damn, I wish I was your lover, goes into like this other, like, it's just kind of going in back and forth.
I'm a sucker for that though. I I love going to see a movie. Like I had the same thing with Cruella. I was like, oh my God, the soundtrack is just glorious. I loved every moment of that. So I was surprised. I was like, how did they afford all these songs? Does Netflix have a deal or something?
Probably.
They must, because that's
I would imagine.
That's a lot. You produced a movie. I produced a movie. You know what it's like to get music for it's not cheap. Not at all.
It's not. Yeah. So it's, and and then it was like, some people were like, well, Creep didn't come out. I was like, well, yeah, Creep was out in 92, 93, because I have very specific memories of that song. And like, so he was like, well, Insane in the Membrane was. And I was like, yeah, that was out in the summer of 93. Like, it just seemed like everybody was looking for fights on this one in certain aspects, which
I don't know if it's just for that one though. I think that's just in general.
I think it's the internet. What are you going to do? But I really liked it a lot in terms of what it tried to do. I was somebody who grew up on R.L. Stine, but I didn't really go deep into the Fear Street books. Like, I probably read about the first 10 of them, and then I went into high school and kind of was like, I just sort of got busy, but I actually was probably more into like Lois Duncan and Christopher Pike growing up.
Gotcha.
And I was I've been reading Stephen King since I was in elementary school. So
yeah, same.
But yeah, so it was just nice to kind of see a teen-centric slasher kind of go there. And I saw somebody else kind of complaining that like, oh, they make this teen movie, but then they go like super gory and stuff. And I was like,
yeah,
did you guys not see Scream?
Film. I know Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Basically, every movie from 1978 through 1982. I mean that. I like that. I like that they kept it. Some of the characters a little younger. Because it's funny. Speaking of people complaining.
Well, I mean, that's R.L. Stine's stories, though.
Yeah, exactly.
They were all about teens with absentee parents and no support structure.
Yeah, and look, when you see a movie and you complain that someone got killed, guess what? That means you actually gave a shit.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. When you see a horror movie, you should care about the people being stalked. You should, generally. I mean, there's some movies that work, you just, hey, let's root for Jason Voorhees. Cool. But like, there's sometimes it's nice to actually give a shit about these characters that you're rooting for. And I liked a lot of these characters, and I was bummed about a few. I was like, damn, I don't want to see that person go. But I love that I thought it was ballsy. I was shocked at how... I was shocked at the amount of gore. I was shocked at the amount, even the little nudity. They went for it, and I think it's one of my favorite things I've watched this year. Like, when it comes to horror, I had so much fun, an absolute blast, and I've seen it twice. I'll watch it again. I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Yeah,
and how
I think
great is Olivia Welch, by the way? Oh my god!
Oh, she's great. I was a little bummed because they killed a Heather off in the opening scene, but she was played by Maya Hawke, so I guess I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
But I was like, a Heather working at a B. Dalton in the 90s. I was like, that would have been like my dream experience as a teenager. I was working at a convenience store. So,
well, as long as no one actually killed you, then that would be, yeah. Let's not go there.
I mean, I once sliced part of my finger off, but I don't know if that counts.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, on a meat slicer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's why. So that's why you use the meat guard when you're slicing meat, because you don't do stupid shit like that, which is what I did.
Fair enough.
I was like, oh, look at that. Part of my fingertips gone. So, yeah, it was a long day.
No, yeah, so, Jesus.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought for me, what was great was I felt like Fear Street really encapsulated sort of the high school experience, and for me,
Mm-hmm.
like it hit specifically for me because I was in high school '92 to '96, so this was like prime, like I was almost aged to where the kids were at the
Nice.
time of that time period. So there's a lot of confusion and anger and things like that. And then I saw like a couple of people complaining, like, well, how come she didn't know how to use the EpiPens right? Um, which like because you're supposed to use EpiPens in your thigh. But
Mm-hmm.
she's a kid, and she even says like somebody says her brother says to her like, "Oh, are you doing it right?" And she's like, "I don't know," because they never talked about it, and she doesn't
Yeah.
know. So she's doing the Pulp Fiction thing, which is what any kid in 1994 would be doing because we know is Pulp Fiction,
Yeah,
you
absolutely,
know.
100%.
So for me, I was
100%.
like, that didn't really bother me at all, you know. And they were just kids who were doing the best that they could in the situations they had. And somebody was like, "Oh, why are they so angry and sad?" I was like, they live in a cursed town where people go crazy all the time. Wouldn't you be a little just mopey? Like,
Mm,
if my whole life existed around watching my friend, like people I go to school with constantly dying, or people I live in town with going crazy, I might have a little bit of an attitude problem
it,
too.
it might suck a little.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially in the 90s during the grunge era. Like everything was
Look,
dopey.
they got so much right, and the fact that I really give a lot of credit to the filmmaker. She did such an exceptional job of, one of my favorite scenes in Halloween, the original Halloween, is simply the scene where Deborah Hill got the girls together in a car and they're just chatting.
Yeah.
Because again, you give a shit. You actually like, oh, these are real people. That's what they did right in Fear Street. A lot of the conversations, a lot of the characters, even the kind of goofy side characters, you're like, I like them. They have meat. They're not just fodder for you to see get axed off. They're actually so when the last half hour comes, there's stakes, and you're like, oh no, oh no, and it creates tension, and just beautifully done. And like you mentioned, not only are you living there's a lot of very interesting talk about political kind of hints at political themes in there, with class structure, with the lead character being a gay couple.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it was amazing, and but it never forgets to have a good time. It never forgets that it's a fun movie and it's enjoyable, and we should be having a good time watching it, as opposed to being kind of which is fine too. Horror can encompass all of it. But
Yeah.
I really loved it. I loved the spirit of the night. It had the spirit of the '90s with Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, which
I
I
mean, it
love.
uses music from Scream. Like that's
Yeah,
why Marco Beltrami got brought into it, which is like
absolutely.
amazing because like they had the scene when like she's in the school and like they hit the cues of Sydney being there and seeing that Casey wasn't in his class with her, and I was like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
god, this is totally Scream, which is fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was cool with that. My favorite little tidbit to it was in the scene when Josh is walking through the hallway and he sees Kate walking by, and he has to like he mumbles something to himself to like center himself. And what I didn't realize is because I never played this version of it, but my other half was watching it, and he was said that that was actually the blood code for Mortal Kombat when they first brought Mortal Kombat to consoles.
Nice.
Because I had always ever played it like in an arcade because I didn't really grow up
Mm-hmm.
with a game system, so I didn't have to cheat for blood. We got blood,
Yeah.
but it's like up down something or other. But that's what he actually, as soon as he said it, Brian like pushed pause and he's like, "Oh my god, he just did the Mortal Kombat blood code," and I was like, "What?" I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh my
So
god! I have to tell
there's
my friend that. I have to tell my Something Stony podcast co-host about that. He'll love this.
yeah, so that was a really fun tip. So they did their homework, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I mean, 78 is even better because that was the year I was born. It's the year that Halloween takes place. I'm guessing we're going to be doing some hat tipping there. I don't know specifically myself, and anybody who does know is still under embargo.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm all in for the whole series, and I think Lee Jeniak is really incredibly talented. I really loved Honeymoon that she did a few years ago, and I've been
Same.
patiently waiting. I know that there was something else she had been associated with for a while, and that kind of dissipated, and I was a little bummed out because I was waiting to see what she was going to get to do next. So I'm really glad it was this.
I think that
she
she's going to have
three movies in 1 year.
3 movies in 1 year. There's a lot of hype. People are loving them. The reviews are fantastic. I'm seeing mostly a lot of positive on the online when it comes to this movie. So she's got something special. She's going to be making a lot of great movies, and she's not. I got a chance to interview her, and she's this lovely, lovely, talented woman, and I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan, and I can't wait to see what she has next. Really love her.
Yeah, I interviewed her for Honeymoon a few years ago. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I wasn't cool enough to get asked to cover Fear Street, so it's okay.
You're cool enough for me.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm fine. Lord knows I don't need any more deadlines anyway. So
I know, right?
I'm like, I can barely keep up with the ones that I have. But we also had. This weekend alone was just like crazy in terms of horror because. Not only did Werewolves Within finally hit VOD after coming out in theaters the week before.
Excellent movie. Please go see it.
Yeah, Fear Street hit Netflix. And then on top of that, we also had in theaters the Forever Purge.
Yes, we did.
We did. I'm trying to see if there was any other things that came out this weekend. Until Death also came out this weekend. Yeah. With Megan Fox, which is really good.
I need to see that one. That's the one I haven't seen, and I love her, so I'm down.
Most people are sort of expecting Gerald's Game out of it.
Oh, okay.
And that is not the case, and that's all I will say. It's really, really good. It has Jack, has Jack Roth in it. Tim Roth's son, I believe.
Oh, okay.
He was in a movie a few years called Us and Them, I believe. I think that's him that's in there. I'm looking really quickly so I don't sound like a total jerk. But I swear it was him. This is why I can't watch movies without doing major IMDb.
Oh, I know.
Yes, it is Jack Roth. I knew it was him. Really nice kid because I actually interviewed him for this. It was this little indie thriller called Us and Them where he kind of infiltrates and takes this rich family hostage, and he comes from a poor neighborhood and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It was it's South by Southwest a few years ago, and then I got a SVOD release and stuff.
Nice.
But it's really good. I don't remember. I'm trying to see who put that out because Screen Media.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So if you're looking for a fun little thriller that kind of gets super physical, Megan Fox rules. She's really, really good.
She's great. I love her. She's real awesome to interview too. I really like her a lot. Her a lot.
So, but Forever Purge, which came in theaters. So, what is your verdict on Forever Purge? How are you a Purge fan? Are you out there putting your little blue flowers out for it? Or are you closing your door and waiting for it to go away?
No, I think it's a franchise that has found a voice in a way that is not always pleasant. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I always feel like every time I watch a new Purge movie, I'm just like, okay. Well, that was a movie, and it was okay, and I had a decent time. I like this one. I like the Forever Purge, and I think it was a little too nail on the head with what we're going through in this country and in the world today. It's a very strange time, and I'm not going to get too political, but obviously there's a lot of division and there's a lot of infighting, and not just about movies, ironically enough. And it's a little chilling to watch that. And there's a part of me, and I hate to say this, there is a part of me that goes, do we need this? Do we need to have the mirror held up? I always think of Funny Games. The director was like, well, I wanted to show America that violence isn't pretty. Violence isn't good. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Of course it's not good. But I do think that, I think it was a well-made movie. I think it was I love the lead. Anna, and I'm not going to say her name right.
De La Reguera.
Thank you. I thought she was great. I thought the performances were mostly terrific. I liked seeing Josh Lucas again. I liked it. I think that's really the most I can say. It wasn't a pleasant watch. It wasn't fun. It wasn't entertaining. but it was a well-made movie, and it definitely had moments I'm like, huh, okay. Wow, they went there. They went there. And I mean, look, it's always a little over the top, but I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how I feel about that whole franchise, because it's never fun for me. I appreciate it. I enjoy it sometimes. I don't know. What do you think? Are you a fan of this?
I am, but I think that's because I'm sort of lean towards the socio-political when it comes to movies.
Fair enough.
I mean, inherently, all horror holds a mirror up to our society in some way, shape, or form.
100%. Absolutely.
And I think it's interesting because this was a discussion I had with James DeMonico and was having with certain people on Twitter over the weekend, was that there are a subset of people who are fans of the Purge series that don't see these movies as political. And now they're mad because they think this one is political.
I mean, literally, one was called Election
Year.
Election Year, yes.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what it was called, about a woman running for president. I mean,
the funny thing is like, so for me, like, because I went back and watched the series before watching this one. And I do like that. I mean, I think for me, the first one had always been the weakest, because
I agree 100%. Yes.
It wasn't even just that, of the way that they positioned, this family who had everything, and, they were wealthy and all this. That's not even my biggest problems with it. It was just that certain elements felt sloppy from a storytelling perspective.
I didn't really know what it was at that time. It was just like that was more of a home invasion thriller. That's really all it was.
Well, I mean, technically, if you look at it, all of these movies are fit into a different subgenre.
Sure.
When you go through them.
Yeah, I agree.
I think for me, like, Anarchy is where it sort of found its groove, because it tapped into different elements, and sort of, especially through the idea of Frank Grillo's character, who's looking to sort of right this wrong, and does he want to become part of this? And then we see his evolution in Election Year with Elizabeth Mitchell and protecting her. I think for me, like, and even the first Purge, like, had some really horrifically fantastic set pieces that, shone a spotlight on, like, how we treat communities of color, and the disparity that exists, and the lack of resources in those communities, and how it can lead to people who belong to those communities having to make these really hard decisions, ultimately leading to them, basically testing out the Purge on, essentially Black communities. So for me, I'm like, I don't understand how you watch these 4 other movies and you're surprised by anything in the Forever Purge, because they've been telling you the entire time. I don't know if it's just because everything, the discussion has changed in our country, so where people are a little more, I don't want to say aware of it, but like, it's just, it's a different conversation than people were having in 2013.
Sure. I mean,
when the first movie happened.
It does. The new one is a little on the nose.
It is. And I don't even think it has, and I don't even think it touches a lot of the set pieces that we've seen in the second, the third, and the fourth. You know, but it's a nice story. I liked it sort of had this dusty Western feeling to it. Yeah,
it was fun to see the kind of the Texas kind of a different take on it.
Because it's a road movie too, which again is sort of differentiates it from the others. And I like the fact that for the first Purge and for this movie, for the Forever Purge, it would have been easy for DeMonico just to keep directing those movies. But because the perspectives of those stories were coming from experiences that are completely outside of his own realm of experience, that he had the right directors take the helm, which he didn't have to do because, you know, he's basically the creator of these stories and stuff. But there was another thing we discussed, was like how it was important to him to have a Black director for the first Purge and to have a director from Mexico for the Forever Purge.
Yeah.
So, and I'm, you know, for me, like now in retrospect, I mean, I think it's a step ahead of the first Purge, but it is lower on the ranking. Like it's one of those, I liked it, but I'm not like, I didn't love it. But I think it leaves everything in a really interesting spot that I wasn't expecting. And I know for so many people, they, you know, it's been for years saying like, this is the last Purge movie. But again, that was something else that I talked to DeMonico about. And he, in the last 3.5 months, basically wrote a script. for one last.
Yeah, I mean, look, as long as these movies make money, they're going to make them, and especially considering how socio-political they are, there's a place for them.
Yeah.
Whether you like them or not, there's a place for them, and I think that, you make them on the cheap. You hire actors like, Frank Grillo. You hire actors like even Josh Lucas. You hire this unique Lena Headey. You find
they also brought in like Will Patton for this one.
Oh my God, he's so good. By the way, like,
I know. I just rewatched Armageddon last night. So.
Oh shit! Yeah, I'm a fan of his. He did a friend of mine's movie, Boarding House. Boaz Yakin, and he's really fantastic in that. I don't know if you've gotten to see that yet.
No.
I really check it out. Really interesting movie. Really interesting movie. But I like the cast, and I like the it definitely gave me chills, and it gave me an unsettling feeling, and I wouldn't mind seeing more. I'm not looking forward to that. If that makes sense, it's not a franchise that I get excited about. It's not one I own them all. I am a completist, but I don't watch them regularly. Occasionally I'll be in the mood for, oh yeah, that was an interesting one. I feel like I want to watch Anarchy again. That's the one that I feel like I have watched
Anarchy
the least.
and Election Year are so scary now in comparative to the things that we've been through in the last 4 years and in the last few months as well. Where it's kind of startling, the things that you see in those movies and how much it parallels to things that have happened in the last year, which is years before they actually have. It's really, really weird.
It's shocking, and I like what he has to say. I like that he's making these, and I mean, I do get kind of tired of the overuse of the Purge at Universal Halloween Horror Nights, but
I mean, they've got the franchises, so they're gonna
milk that.
I mean, when you got those walkthrough areas, you got to have somebody walking around.
Right. I almost wish we'd see, like, I don't know. I want a Conjuring one, man. I want the different studio.
I was gonna say, well, you have to go to the Warner Brothers horror movie.
I still need to do that. Never done that. One day.
I did a couple. The first 2 years they did it, I got to go to those, which was fun.
Okay.
But they're a different experience. It's not like haunted house type stuff. So
yeah, very much. Yeah, I've never been. I want to go. I did one for a junket one time. It was kind of a night for The Curse of La Llorona, and it was
okay.
That was, and I saw a ghost. I saw a ghost. I saw a figure walking. There was a night, and there was a figure walking across the studio in a really dark area, and I was like, I don't see the person. I just see the shadow of the person. And I go to the tour guide, I was like, was there a security guard there? Because I thought I saw, as we passed, like, there was a gate, and where they would have been walking, I saw a figure just standing. This just black figure just standing, like, watching us. I was like, was there a person there? And she's like, no, there's no one in this area at all. I'm like, okay, I just saw a ghost. So I don't know. I know we got off topic on The Purge, but it's just fascinating how many horror franchises there are right now, which, I don't know, we all grew up on Friday the 13th and Halloween and Chucky, and so it's not technically surprising, but it's the variety of what we have.
Yeah.
From The Purge to The Nun to, I don't know, to The Insidious to, whatever. But man, yeah, I don't know. The Purge is not the funnest. It's not the most enjoyable for me.
It's not. But at least next week we will have, or we might be still another week out. Next week we should have, we'll have fun horror again because we'll have Escape Room Tournament of Champions.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And another Fear Street. So
yes, and another Fear Street.
Might be good to mention.
Yes. So I did that in the other segment. I was already doing that. But
fair enough.
Escape Room Tournament Champions, I believe, comes out the following week. So
yeah, which I'm looking forward to because the first one was an absolute surprise. I did not expect to enjoy that, and I
loved
did.
The first one, and I'm under embargo for the second one. So
wow!
I'll just let my smile do my talking.
I will. I read you loud and clear.
Yes. But yeah. So anyway, so we can start to kind of wrap up here. Have you seen anything else that's fun that you'd like to recommend?
Well, it's not really horror, but I do want to give a shout out to Zola. I know a lot of people that it's not for everyone. It's the most weirdest, wildest movie I've seen in a long time, and it's just about a couple strippers going to Florida. I think it's Florida. I'm spacing a little bit, but
based on the thread on Twitter, I think it is Florida.
Yeah, and Riley Kilo, and I think I'm saying her name wrong.
Riley Keough.
Keough, sorry. I added an L there. She is stunning. I mean, I would absolutely give her Best Supporting Actress nomination, but I think the film's a little too ballsy for the Oscars, to be honest. But I mean, it's horrific. There's some horrific shit that happens in that movie, so I do recommend it. But horror-wise, I've been kind of going for the old stuff. I've been in the mood for kind of the old splatter films, and Fear Street kind of got me on a nostalgia kick a little bit, to be honest. What about you? What have you seen lately?
Well, as mentioned, I've been kind of running through Cruel Summer, just because it leaves Hulu in like a week and a half. So I wanted to make sure I got that in before it went away. I also recently watched Vicious Fun on Shudder.
I keep hearing about that. That's
which is really, if you're into the throwback stuff, that'll do it for you. Okay. That's really good. Mentioned Till Death, Escape Room. Can't really say anything about yet, so let's have to put that to myself. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's been about it in terms of stuff I can talk about. But I do like the fact that, even though it's summer, even though things are really picking up, with studio things and everything like that, that we're still getting a pretty good amount of horror coming to the small screens still.
Yeah. So happy about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm trying to see, because like Shudder, of course, every week has new horror movies coming out. And there's one that hits at the end of this month that I saw through Fantastic Fest last year called The Boy Behind the Door.
Oh, yeah. I'm very curious about that one. I have not seen it yet.
It is really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super intense. So that's one I highly recommend people sort of keep on their radars. And one I'm really looking forward to is Blood Red Sky, which is basically looks like 30 Days of Night on an airplane from Netflix. And that comes out, I think, the 23rd. So that's one that I'm also looking forward to. And of course, we have new M. Night Shyamalan movie coming out. And then we're basically rolling into August at that point, and I don't know where it's all going, but it's going, and we're just getting lots of horror.
Great, and don't forget to say his name a few times in the mirror, Candyman.
Candyman, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like I've been waiting forever for this movie, and I'm so excited.
Goodness gracious, I can't wait. I can't wait.
I am very excited. So.
Yeah, I like the new trailer. We were going to talk a little bit about this, and I know we're running out of time, but I do want to say that I think the new trailer is an improvement over the first one. I wasn't sold on the first one. Okay. I was curious. I was piqued interest, but the more I see, the more I'm jonesing for this movie.
Yeah, I think for me, I was an easy sell, so you didn't have to even show me a trailer, and I was already there, basically. I think for me, because again, I grew up not very far from like Cabrini Green and things like that.
Oh, wow.
So, because even like when I would have to take the train into work, like in the late 90s and early 2000s, like I always took the Green Line, which was like the West Side train, because it would start in Oak Park and take you in downtown, but it would go right through that area of Chicago all the time. So to me, it was really interesting watching like, essentially gentrification happening in that area, because they were pulling down the old Cabrini Green apartment buildings, putting up these townhouses, but then they were basically pushing, Black families out of those neighborhoods because they wanted, quote unquote, better people to be living there, which is just, living in LA, every neighborhood is getting gentrified, and it's horrible and it's awful. No. Like I think about, because when I moved here, I lived like right on the cusp of Silver Lake and Echo Park. Oh, yeah, which is super diverse. Loved it. I loved everything about it. I go through those areas now, and it's all condos. And,
yeah, I know.
And it's nobody can afford to live there. And it's really unfortunate. So for me, it's a pretty hot hot button issue for me. Because most people don't know this, but like years and years ago, in like my former life, like I actually worked for a PR firm who worked with a lot of like social justice organizations in Chicago, and we worked with like an organization on the West Side that was like they would teach art programs to at-risk youth and things like that.
Oh.
I worked with an organization who worked on the South Side of Chicago, who was working with gun violence, handling gun violence. We also worked with like the Alternative Schools Network, which was like for kids who dropped out of high school but still wanted to pursue some sort of like educational path. So for me, like, I guess I've always sort of enjoyed mixing these things with my entertainment. So for me, like Cabrini Green, like always represented something, as someone who lives in the suburbs of Chicago that's supposed to be safe. And these things you hear about Cabrini Green, but nobody ever talks about the people who live there.
Wow.
And it was always really kind of like frustrating to me. I think like I love the original Candyman, but I always felt the backstory was always I think when it's not Bernard Herrmann. Is it Bernard Herrmann?
Bernard Shaw.
Bernard Shaw.
I believe. Wait, let me check. No, it's Bernard Rose. I'm thinking of
Bernard Rose. I think when he translated Clive's story for the original Candyman, I think for me, I wished he would have fine-tuned who Candyman was targeting, and sort of, because it just, to me, the fact that Candyman would target persons of color like just seemed like it seemed weird. And it seems like with this new trailer especially that they've sort of reworked the backstory of Candyman a little bit, and reworked his motivations, because to me that always bothered me. Because
fair enough. You know
what I mean?
I can see that. I mean, I love the movie. The Candyman is one of my favorites.
And Tony Todd's performance still to this day is like
Tony Todd and Virginia Madsen.
Yeah,
people forget how goddamn good she is in that movie.
Not me. Like, she was actually getting, he would actually hypnotize her during those scenes, Bernard Rose.
That's cool. I did not know.
He actually would hypnotize her before the scenes that she would have to interact with Tony. That's why she looks so checked out there. She's really under hypnosis. Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. I just wish she would somehow be in the movie. I really want her back.
She's in the trailer.
I don't know how like they're gonna use it though. Like it seems so bizarre to me, but I don't know. I wasn't sure if that was her originally, but and she's not on IMDb, so I was like, is that her? Am I crazy?
I feel like it was her, which is interesting because they would have to retcon her character's story. Unless she shows up during some sort of dream sequence or something.
Well, it is a spiritual sequel, so,
Yeah, but I mean, she basically burns to death in the first one, saving the baby, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm super stoked for Candyman. Like,
Me too.
And the thing is, the fact that I know Tony Todd's involved.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's because we talk about like all of the great villains in horror. And of course, everybody always brings up Freddy, Michael, Jason, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. But honestly, like when you talk about performances, like I would put Tony Todd up next to Robert Englund on any given day.
Absolutely.
As Candyman.
Absolutely. Even in the sequels, which aren't great.
But he's great.
He's great. He's great in every single one of them.
Yeah.
And it's a phenomenal performance, and I'm happy he's involved. I'm happy to see Vanessa Williams there. That's awesome. That gives me chills every time I see that.
As a person who grew up loving Melrose Place, yes.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't, but I got you. I know you're I'm picking up what you're putting down. I got you.
I almost wonder, and again, I don't really know how this plays into this, but I almost wonder if the lead character in the movie ends up being the baby from the original Candyman.
Oh my God. Wow. Spiritual sequel. I think you're right, actually.
I mean, because it almost would fit that, because he was taken by Candyman and then he gets rescued by Virginia Madsen.
Yeah. Vanessa
Williams is his mother. That maybe because of those events, maybe he didn't know about his own story, and maybe because it looks like he's kind of becoming Candyman now.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So I feel like
I like the trailer because it tells you enough, but it doesn't tell you everything.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I don't even want to theorize too much more because what if I'm right? Like, what if I'm right? But yeah, I'm really curious to see which direction
I think you might be.
That would be kind of cool. But I would be, again, it's one of those where it has just enough geeky details. I think for those of us who love the original movie, that you're gonna dig those moments. Mm-hmm. But then I think it's gonna have enough to where I think it's gonna be like a Halloween 2018 scenario again.
I'm getting the feeling. Good vibes on my end.
I hope so. I'd love a new franchise. I think that'd be fun.
Me too.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we'll wrap it up here. Jimmy, where can people find you online?
Of course, JoBlo at Arrow in the Head. We Live Entertainment. And of course, Cosm, you can find me on my other show, Sounds Scary. And of course, Something Stony. Completely different. And of course, Twitter, Jimmy to the O, Facebook, all of that you can find me.
All right.
How about you?
I'm on Daily Dead. I'm on Twitter at the Horror Chick. You know, I'm just around.
You're always
nobody needs to find me.
Oh, bullshit! We need to find you.
You're awesome. Needs to find me. But yes, no. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in this week. Mm-hmm. We thank you for checking out our shows. Be sure you check out all the other HCA shows out there coming to you every week, and we will see you guys to chat horror again next week. Bye.